AI can never be free software. Why? Because free software is specified by having the 4 essential freedoms. Freedom 1 to run the program, freedom 0 to run the program, freedom 1 to study and change the program in source code form, freedom 2 to redistribute exact copies, and freedom 3 to distribute modified versions. This now sounds very much applicable to AI. I can run AI, I can redistribute copies of open source AI or whatever, and I can redistribute, in a sense, modified versions. But with freedom 1, we really have a kind of a big problem, because to study and change the program in source code form, like, how does this apply to AI, we must ask. Because of course, I mean, there's the kind of code you use to train the AI, or also the libraries used for that. You can also say, well, the weights, if the weights are kind of released as free software, I mean, that's all fine and good. But the principal problem with AI is that you can never understand it, because it is too complex. Especially this part right here, in source code form, can never apply to AI in a fundamental way. Because, of course, yeah, the code which is used to train AI, you kind of, or to generate the neural net or whatever, this can be open source, but this is not what's essential of AI. AI specifies itself through, I guess, the weights. And are these now software you can understand? No, of course not, because there's no real logic to it. At least no human understandable logic. So my point here is there is no source code of AI, because there is no, AI is not something logical, it is not something human made in that sense. Of course, you kind of specify the way in which an AI is trained and all this kind of stuff, but again, in the end, you cannot understand it. No human can understand what an AI actually does. You cannot pinpoint the output of AI to this and that line of source code. Again, because there is no real source code. The best you have is, again, the weights, I guess. And this is more akin to assembly. Of course, you can kind of dig in, and if you want to, you can, of course, try to understand, okay, why is this pixel now black or white or some color, if we're thinking of like image output. Or we could say, well, why is this word here? And we can try to kind of backtrace it through the neural net if we really wanted to do that. And this is kind of akin to, okay, I'm gonna now dig through the assembly code, through the binary code, and see where some addition was performed or whatever. But again, in source code form, in human readable form. But this is the principal problem, because again, an AI is not, it is not created by human hand as a normal program is. So this is the reason why AI can never be free software. Even though you might think, well, if we just release all the source code and all this and all that and the weights and whatever, but we need to think of AI as something very different than normal software. Again, because it is too complex to be built by hand. Good luck building a neural net or performing kind of the adjustment operations of a neural net by hand. No, of course not. You need to have this automated. So what I mean with that is that the building of AI is, in a sense, an automatic process. And so it trains itself. I mean, that's the whole point, is it not? That you give it input, and it's from this input, from the training data, it extracts the rules. It, in a sense, creates the rules itself through sheer quantity. Give it enough data and it will kind of figure out how you want things to look, or you want things to be judged, or you want whatever, right? But then you are not responsible for the logic. You are only responsible of feeding this machine you have built data to train and form itself. And again, the machine building, the kind of structuring of the neural net, for example, okay, how many layers do I want, how many parameters, all this kind of stuff, this can be specified, but this is not the main point. So yeah, because this has nothing to do with the actual logic of the machine, the actual logic of the AI, the actual process by which it computes. I hope I'm kind of expressing myself clearly enough. So you can never study an AI because, again, it's too complex. And it has nothing, it is not built by some guy in front of his computer who sits down and programs some program which has logic and which does this and that or whatnot. No, that's not how it works. So to say AI is free software makes no sense, because I mean, I would even go as far to say, as I have said a few minutes ago, I think, that we need to really think about AI as something different from software, because it does not fit in this normal scheme of, well, you sit down, you write the program, you compile the program into binary, you ship it, whatever. The logic, there is no human logic in AI. So again, I hope I have made myself clear and have made the point I'm trying to get across clear. Yeah, I really think there's no arguing around that, because again, you can never understand AI. Like, that's how it is. There is no, like, there's nothing to understand there, because it's just too complex. It's just too quantitative. So yeah. And if we kind of categorize AI as something different from freedom, as something different from software, or if we categorize it as something that's not software, that's essentially not software, again, the whole concept of free software does not apply to it in any ways, because, yeah. But I think this illustrating this concept through this point of being able to study and modify a program is kind of the best, because again, you cannot do that with AI. You cannot really understand it. You can also does not change it. Of course, you can change it indirectly. You can understand it indirectly. You can change it by feeding it more of this and that data, but then you're not operating on the mechanism itself. You're not operating on what is actually like being computed by the computer. You are only indirectly operating on that. And also only by chance in some sense. So yeah, I hope that's clear. Yeah, again, if you think about it enough, if you think it through to the end, it's all very obvious, I think. And yeah, so I think that's it. I think I'm just repeating myself at this point, but I think that's an essential thing to understand. And that's also that also opens your eyes to the fact that like AI has nothing to do with free software on the first hand, and also nothing to do with freedom. Like in any, however you frame that. And even if we are talking in the context of computer technology, which in itself is already like, let's not get into that, but the frame of like computer technology is already so, in a sense, tight when we put it into a big picture frame, that already is it is what it is. But even in the context of, okay, free software, let's at least have freedom respecting software. Let's at least have software that you can change and understand. If you already cannot change and understand the underlying hardware, like even in that context, AI just I mean, you can never understand it. You can never change it in a direct way. So thus you can also, of course, never directly control it. So yeah, okay. That's it. That's all I wanted to say. Have a nice day.